James Cartwright, a renowned defense attorney, prided himself on dismantling airtight cases. He had a knack for finding cracks in the prosecution's arguments, often securing acquittals for his clients, even the guilty ones. One rainy morning, James woke to a knock at his door. Two detectives, Harris and Lane, stood on his porch. "Mr. Cartwright, you're under arrest for the murder of Victor Delgado," Harris said. Delgado was a local businessman with a reputation as shady as his dealings. James had defended him in court just 2 months prior, securing his freedom in a high-profile fraud case. "I didn't kill anyone," James protested as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Harris smirked. "We'll see about that." At the station, James learned why he was the prime suspect. Delgado had been found in his office with a single gunshot wound to the chest. Security cameras showed James entering the building at 8:15 p.m. the previous night and leaving at 8:35 p.m., just 5 minutes before Delgado's body was discovered. "You have no motive," Lane admitted during the interrogation, "but the evidence doesn't lie. Your fingerprints are on the gun, and the cameras don't lie." James stared at the table. He had no memory of being at Delgado's office that night. His last recollection was having dinner with a friend, but he couldn't recall what happened after. Released on bail, James pored over the evidence. The timeline didn't add up. Delgado's time of death was estimated at 8:40 p.m., but James clearly remembered leaving the restaurant at 8:30 p.m. There was no way he could have arrived at Delgado's office in time. Yet, the surveillance footage was damning. James saw himself on the grainy video, walking through the building's entrance. "How is this possible?" he whispered to himself. James turned to his investigator friend, Laura, for help. She began digging into Delgado's enemies, of which there were plenty. "Delgado's fraud case pissed off a lot of people," Laura said. "Plenty of folks wanted him dead. But framing you? That takes planning." Together, they examined the security footage frame by frame. Laura spotted something odd. The timestamp on the video seemed slightly off. "Someone tampered with this," she said. Laura discovered that Delgado had been blackmailing someone powerful, a tech mogul named Daniel Keene. Keene had been exposed during Delgado's trial, but managed to avoid legal trouble thanks to his wealth and influence. James recalled something from Delgado's case files, an encrypted flash drive Delgado kept as leverage. It contained sensitive data on Keene's illegal operations. "Keene has the resources to frame someone like you," Laura said, "especially if Delgado threatened to expose him." Laura tracked down Delgado's assistant, a nervous man named Peter. Peter confessed that he'd seen someone tampering with the building's security system the night of the murder. He described the man, scarred face, tall build, wearing a maintenance uniform. James felt a chill run down his spine. The description matched someone he'd defended years ago, Marcus Trenton, a hitman who specialized in framing others. James and Laura found Marcus at a seedy bar on the outskirts of town. After some pressure, Marcus admitted he'd been hired by Daniel Keene to frame James for the murder. "Keene said you'd figure it out eventually," Marcus sneered, "but by then, it'll be too late." James and Laura presented their evidence to the police, but Keene's connections made it nearly impossible to act. Days passed, and James started to feel the walls closing in. Then, late one night, Laura burst into James's apartment with a USB drive. Peter found this hidden in Delgado's office, she said, handing it over. James plugged it into his laptop. The drive contained a video recorded the night of the murder. It showed Marcus entering Delgado's office at 8:20 p.m. and exiting at 8:45 p.m., with Keene waiting in a car outside. With the video evidence, James took Keene to court, exposing the mogul's role in Delgado's murder and the conspiracy to frame him. Keene's polished image crumbled as the truth came to light. "You almost got away with it," James said during his testimony, "but the devil's in the details." Keene and Marcus were convicted, and James's name was cleared. Months later, James sat in his office, sipping whiskey. He'd won the hardest case of his life. But as he stared at the city lights, a nagging thought crept into his mind. On the night of Delgado's murder, James had no memory of where he was. He'd relied entirely on Laura's investigation to prove his innocence. He opened a drawer and pulled out an envelope someone had slipped under his door earlier. Inside was a single photograph of James, unconscious in the back of a car, with a chilling note. "Everyone has skeletons, James. Sleep well."